The never-ending story. Then they cut to the kid reading the damn book, he crying. They go back to Atreyu, he's crying. I'm crying. You're probably crying. Toby crying. Everybody out here crying for this damn horse. And what do you know? We find some big old titties, dog. Welcome to the list. This is a show where we pluck a name out of an all-time movie, watch this, watch it, and review it for your viewing pleasure. Don't forget, this is a conversation, so join the fun down there in the comments. The movie we're scratching off the list today is the 1984 children's classic, The Never-Ending Story. A troubled boy dives into a wondrous fantasy world through the pages of a mysterious book. This is a movie that growing up I would remember you could catch on TV every single Sunday. Sadly, I never caught it any Sunday from the very beginning. The only thing I really remember from this movie is that a horse dies. And also thanks to Stranger Things, the theme song.
The answer to a never-ending story.
The movie has the 1980s and 90s children's movie starter pack. Our protagonist kid has been bullied and he has a dead mom, so you know it's about to be a banger. He also have an overworking dad that neglects him and really wants him to hurry up and forget about his mom.
Can't let Mom's death be an excuse for not getting the old job done, right?
I wouldn't want to eat breakfast ever with these two. Homie cracked an egg into his orange juice. I've never seen that in my life. Yell at me in the comments if you've seen otherwise. I've just never seen somebody crack an egg into their orange juice. Plus, there's only like peanut butter, jelly, untoasted Wonder Bread, and butter. What the f going on in this household, man? I'd be depressed and sad as hell too. And my mama died, I can tell. No one's cooking anything. So pretty quickly, our main boy Bastain starts reading the book and we transport into Fantasia. And we're in a creepy dark forest, and already I could tell that from the makeup and the prosthetics of these creatures that I'm about to see something that's really, really legit. Plus, this guy that's dressed up as Willy Wonka actually was in a Willy Wonka movie years later as the Oompa Loompas in the Tim Burton movie. This is legendary actor Deep Roy. From the jump, the puppets, the makeup, the camera work really manipulates your eyesight and makes everything believable from the very first trip to Fantasia. Plus, it does a very good job with the world building, setting up what's about to happen, explaining what's going on with the whole nothing coming in and taking everything away. In our second trip, we realized that to save everybody from the nothing, we need to entrust the help of the boy who eventually has to cure the child empress from this weird sickness. And here in this scene, you can see a bunch of different creatures and they're all really cool. These bobble-headed guys really distracted me. And then there's a fishy guy too over here chilling. And this was a lady with two heads. Everybody else was so outrageously cool that I completely didn't realize that Fantasia is apparently located in a galaxy far, far away. Because in that same scene, you can spot Yoda, Chewie, a couple Ewoks hanging out, C-3PO over here, E.T. hanging out, freaking Gumby and Miggy. But like I said, the fate of Fantasia ultimately lies on this Christian Bale looking warrior kid, Atreyu. The only creature that didn't really look great was the bad wolfy creature, Gamork. He's just like this black wolf that is like the nothing's Chalan. He's gotta go out there and basically murder everybody. It was a little weird. So our boy Atreyu and his trusty horse Artax set off on an adventure, and they quickly come upon the Swamp of Sadness where the aforementioned very sad scene occurs, which I could have swore was like towards the end of the movie, but it happens less than 30 minutes in, and it's still sad as hell 30 years later. This is the only part I remember from the movie, and it still hurts. It still sucks balls. Then they cut to the kid reading the damn book, he crying. They go back to Atreyu, he's crying. I'm crying. You're probably crying. Toby crying. Everybody out here crying for this damn horse. What took me a minute to realize is that he died in the Swamp of Sadness, which consumes people who feel true sadness inside. So that means that the horse was super sad, which makes me even more sad. But also, the f you sad about? Use a horse. Maybe that it's an insight as to what the hell Atreyu been doing. Like, how you been treating this horse? Why he all sad and depressed? This is your fault, kid. But in reality, this scene took trainers 7 weeks to teach the horse to stay still in the mud as it was rising, because the horse was standing on hydraulics that would lower him to the mud up until his neck. That's really all I was thinking and wondering if the horse died in real life. Fortunately, none of them did. They actually trained 3 horses, and you can tell the horse is freaking out just by looking at his eyes. But in the movie, does that mean that Atreyu was faking his sadness of losing his best friend, the horse? Because if he's sad and he's in the swamp of sadness, wouldn't he start sinking too? He does later on start sinking, but wouldn't he sink right there? I don't know, that was a little weird. Then randomly, Bastain screams for like no apparent reason. That was weird to me. He just screams. Like, this was after he cried. This was after all this other stuff. He just randomly screams, and Atreyu can hear him, already giving us an insight as to what the hell's going on in the connection between these two. But I also thought it was pretty crazy that this whole movie is carried by both kids, really, Noah Hathaway and Barrett Oliver, who played Atreyu and Bastain. Especially Atreyu is just acting with puppets. He does a great acting job right there. He never felt over the top or unbelievable like usually kid actors make you feel. All the kids in the movie do a fantastic job. But like I said, just when all hope you think is lost and Atreyu starts to drown in the mud, he is saved by Falkor, the dragon dog we all wanted but no one could actually have. Falkor is probably by far the most memorable and best character of the whole movie. Looking back at it, he's got like a human nose kind of, but with like dog features, and he's a dragon. He is the luck dragon in this world, but his voice, and even if his lip sync doesn't perfectly match, there's something about this character that's just so genuine, and as a kid you're like, I want to fly around with Falkor. It looks fun as hell. But it's a great big old puppet basically. His head alone in real life was around 9 feet long, and the whole big ass puppet was basically over 40 feet long and weighed over 200 pounds. Of course, always and forever, practical effects over CGI, especially during this time, because it's something tactical that the Atreyu actor could feel and touch and hold on to. It just made it more believable. Plus, we're in this magical fantasy land that you just start to buy everything in this movie. I did feel like there were a couple things that were like lingering a little bit too much. Stuff would repeat itself a little bit too much for pacing's sake. I wish there was a little bit quicker. Come to find out, to move along with the story, he has to cross these 3 gates, but only those who truly believe in themselves can cross this first gate. And what do you know? We find some big old titties, dog. These sphinxes got racks on them, dog. That was distracting. I would totally get fired up because I'd be distracted staring at the titties.
The eyes are opening.
And the second gate is where we start to figure out that the story starts to bleed over into real life, breaking the 4th wall, and it starts getting a little, okay, what the hell's going on here? I really love the landscapes and how they simulated the flying. Yes, there's a lot of green screen, but they found a way to made it work then and now, combining a lot of flying shots. And honestly, the green screen or blue screen, whatever you want to call it, isn't actually that terrible. I don't remember if I said it, but what is kind of terrible is this wolfy doggy thing, Gamork, who eventually does find Atreyu and confronts him after he explains what the whole dealio is, very politely, but he's like, all right, kid, I gotta kill you now. It's not much of a fight, which I was a little disappointed in, but I get it. It's a children's movie. How's he gonna fight this wolfy thing? This would have been the most logical way he would have taken him down, where Gamork attacks him and falls on a sharp thing. In real life, Gamork's claw actually scratched the kid actor's face very close to the eye, almost damn near losing his eye. Plus, when he fell on top of him, the puppet was so heavy it was crushing the kid and he couldn't breathe. So Fantasia is destroyed because this kid didn't name the child empress in time, which the child empress kind of freaked me out a little bit, because in my head, even by looking at the poster and the artwork and all this stuff, I could have swore it was a grown-ass lady. I didn't remember the child empress being a child, which is weird. But yeah, Bastian's just camping out in school in the middle of a storm and I guess his dad really don't give a shit about him. The dad's at home eating dinner, cracking some eggs into a bottle of wine or something. He not even bothered looking for him. Is that real? Is that not real? Is that in all the kids' head? That whole part was a little confusing. And they involve us, the audience, as another member in this multiverse of a story that never ends. Get it? Right after I finished watching it, I was like a bit unsatisfied, also felt weird about the ending. It's very vague for a kids movie because, again, to save the world he has to give the child empress a new name, because like, why? What's the purpose of that? Why does it have to be this kid? There's just so many questions. And still, it's up for debate what name the kid actually gave her. The actor said that he said the word Moonchild, which is also the name used in the original book. He says it and he's met up against with the Child Empress, which actually the actress who plays the Child Empress shortly before filming lost her 2 front teeth, which actually gave her a lisp with the 2 fake teeth that were put in. So she really had to work around that. Child Empress grants Homie a couple wishes, and after wishing Fantasia back, he also wishes to be able to use Falcor to fly around the real world to chase his bullies. I think that it was really kind of took me out a little bit, but I think that's the purpose of the movie. The movie is actually based off a German book written by Michael Ende, and the film is actually only half of the book, which none of that is felt at all. They did a brilliant job of telling the beginning, middle, and end of an actual story by only using half of a story. None of that was actually felt. Nothing felt missing. Nothing felt forced at all. But the author actually hated the movie and he called it revolting, mainly because of those Sphinx titties. Plus, a lot of things were changed, like Atreyu was actually a blue-skinned kid with green hair. Falcor didn't have dog features at all. Just a lot of little things that were changed for the movie. Even with him helping with the script for the movie, he still didn't like this movie at all. Wolfgang Petersen was actually the director, and he also had Steven Spielberg help him out with the editing for the American version. He directed Das Boot a few years before, and he went on to direct Air Force One and Troy. There were plans for an immediate sequel with the other half of the book, but legal stuff got in the way, so the sequel didn't come until 6 years later in the NeverEnding Story 2, forcing them to have a whole new cast, because obviously the other ones were grown. I've never seen that one, but from what I can see from images, it looks absolutely like ass. Then you have the third one where it looks like the best thing that came out of that was Jack Black somehow. And I'm down to check both of them out, but it's honestly going to come down to you. Let me know down in the comments if I should, and also dropping a like. What I'm not sure I'm going to be able to track down is the animated series that released in the mid-90s. I kind of remember watching it, but not really, and this actually features Atreyu looking like he does in the book. After I sat with it for a while, I started to reflect a little bit more on the movie and start to realize that there's a lot of strong themes in this movie. Bullying, dealing with death, all this other stuff, and escapism, which really got to me, because that's really what we all nerds really love, is to escape from the real world. And what also tripped me out is this could have easily been a very bad movie. It has all the elements for a bad, terrible movie, but somehow it fell into the classics and one that is beloved by many all these years later. What's crazy that 2 years later, there was this weird movie that released that if you went to Hogwarts like we did, there's a lot of stuff that sounds familiar, and I'll leave the video we did on that movie, Troll, right over here. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Remember to always and forever, you do you. Dory, I like to fly on my doggy.